Please hit the subscribe button for more content.
Hi there, welcome to this video from footballbetdata.com. In this video, going to be looking at tonight's championship fixtures using data. So a couple of weeks ago, did manage to introduce this dashboard to you. It will be commercially available at some point, probably into the new year now for advanced members. Quite a lot of talk and requests in the Telegram room for files such as this to be made available. Obviously, we can react to what people are asking for and try and design and scope that out and build it. But this is something that's is quite useful. Basically, at the back end, it's just a Power Query linking to through data models into two files. So I keep a historic one and then update a current one, which I've already done today, and I've done that on numerous videos. So I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm going to get straight in because there are 7 games tonight in the championship, and the intention of this video is just to rattle through them and see what the heat maps and the strategies that are loaded into here spit out, whilst talking you through the sheet as well, obviously. So one thing, bear in mind, as always, this is data. It doesn't take into account things like travel, weather conditions, the referee, injuries, suspensions, that type of thing. But what it will do is take into account the odds, and the odds should already have those factors built in more or less. So we look at the home team as the denominator. We look at the home teams, or we look at the match odds, and we use the over under 2.5 market as our guide for goals. Then what it does is basically look at games from that team that have had a similar makeup and shows you where the results have been and what the profit loss has been. So let's get into it, and I can talk you through the first game on the list, Burnley versus Coventry. So we'll simply click on Burnley, and I'm going to bring over this sheet as well. So this one, this is the FBD daily file using the score prediction there. I'm not going to actually use the predicted result in here because it does eliminate quite a few games at the beginning of the season, for instance, where there was no predictions available. But if we can look at this, it gives you an at a glance look at the form, the score prediction at the top. They're all included. So that is the pre-match daily file that all advanced members can access through directly through the website and download on a daily basis. And like I said, you've got the score predictions in there as well. I would use that as more of a backup to just reaffirm anything that I'm seeing on this dashboard. Just going to move that one out of the way and get back to the dashboard and start putting in the figures. So I'm using Bookmaker. You can switch to Betfair odds. I've built the dashboard so you can alternate between the two. We only have probably about 2.5 years worth of Betfair odds in the database. Compare that to over 20 years worth of average bookmaker prices. It allows far greater scope of the database to be checked whilst using the bookmaker odds. Doesn't mean to say it's the right thing to do, but where we're comparing apples with apples, it doesn't really matter. We're looking at games that meet a certain criteria. So if we're looking at bookmaker odds historically, I'm going to be putting in the bookmaker odds currently. If I was looking and putting Betfair odds into here to compare against bookmaker prices, then it wouldn't be comparing like for like. So that's where I'd use the Betfair tab. But I'm just trying to understand how games have ended. So really, even if I bet on Betfair, it doesn't really matter that I'm using bookmaker data for my comparables. So when I say average odds, we publish those on the website every morning. They're uploaded. Obviously, as the day goes on, those change, and the closer to kick-off, the better. Usually within the last hour before a game is played is where I would use this. Conscious that there are 8 games tonight. Time it takes to do this video, get it all polished, get it uploaded. People will be able to see it if they want to. I would be accused of after timing if I was to do this after the matches, wouldn't I? Even though I definitely haven't. You can see that I can exclude certain dates and whatnot from the database or from these slices if I needed to. Right, so Burnley at home to Coventry. Today, currently, average odds, bookmaker pricing, I'm going to enter these in here. 3.21 and 3.39 for Coventry. And the average over 2.5 odds. As said before, you can get these sort of odds, whether you get them from FOTMob, whether you get them from Football 24, whether you get them Flash Scores or Odds Checker, wherever you get them from. As long as you're consistent with it, it doesn't really matter. Those odds they're going to be there or thereabouts. What I also do, so they're 2.22 for over 2.5 currently. What I also do is break this down into quartiles. So where they're 2.22, I would go from 2.01 up to 2.25. Now it could be argued, because today's odds are here, I'd be better placed to be looking 2.12 to 2.32. I could do that. It's entirely up to you or whoever uses this, or how, if you take inspiration from this and want to build something similar, that is entirely up to you. It's just the way I do it. They fall within that quartile currently. Obviously, if those odds change, they might tip into the next quartile, which is why looking at the odds closer to the kickoff will give you a better representation of match state. Okay, so we have Burnley. Burnley have obviously played in the Premier League and in League One in the last, back to the 13-14 seasons, the last 12 seasons, and where they have been priced with the under 2.5, between 2.01 and 2.25. These are the outcomes. Now, the reason they're closer or further away from this zero in the middle, the zero represents today's home odds, 2.19, and where you've got games in these columns, the home team were 5%. Their odds were 5% below what they were today. In this column, 5% above, 10%, 15%, etc. So the closer to this middle bar gives you the games that were closer to the exact game state we're in today. So you can see there's a fair amount of green, in fact very little blue around on this this chart. There's a few dotted around a bit further out. I would tend to look in this 5 to 10%, probably not any further. Where we've got a shading, that represents that the home, so this is an away win, so the away team odds were 15% below what they are today. Where they're shaded, there's a white shading on here, that represents a 20% or more difference between the home odds and what they are today. So you can see the rest of them all fall within the same 20% of the home odds today, but that one actually didn't. So I'm just looking at that at a glance. There is quite a lot of green group down here. Other home win, 3-1s, 3-2s, popular 2-0, 2-1 as well. There is a 1-0 bit further out, and then we have a couple of 0-0s in there as well. So your 0-0 could be the cover. If you're looking to do correct score Dutching or correct score backing, you could put your 0-0 as a cover. Probably wouldn't look to any other score lines other than perhaps these 3-1, the 2-1, 2-0, and you can perhaps put a cover on the over the other home wins if that's what you wanted to do correct score wise. That's just what the map is showing us. If I scroll down and look at the profit loss based on heat map and total database, so you can see I've limited this to 20 games to get the 20 closest to today's game state. You can see if we'd backed all of the 20 games to be a home win, we would have come out with a 1 unit stake, that is, we would have come out with a 4.2 profit. Using bookmaker odds, probably using Betfair odds, you would have returned a higher profit than that. 11 occurrences of the 20. And of the other games, so there's 67 in total, so the other 47 on top, you would have had a profit of 9.8 from backing all home wins. There's a bit of value down there as well in the heat map for the over 2.5, but generally everything else is red. So my consideration would probably be to look at the home win, purely based on heat map and also on the profit loss backing home win alone. This is correct scores. And then you can look at the methods that we have here, and we have two methods. So the first one is looking at where Burnley have been, their price has been within the quartile of 2.01 to 2.25. So again, we're looking at quartiles at 2.19 as it stands at the minute. And we have complete green down here. So we have enough games that qualify, more than 10, profit on backing them, so we're not taking into account the over-unders in this. This is purely Burnley home in these odds. Profit 6.15 from those 24 games based on a 1 unit stake, which gives an ROI of 25.63. Home win strike, we're at 50.3%, which gives true odds of 1.73. Value to actual, so that's the difference between the true odds and the actual odds, 0.48. And then we've got the last 5 home games that have been within this odds quartile. They've scored on average 1.8 goals and conceded on average 0.8. So where this is above 1.5 and below 1, they're coloured green. Just moving across to the right hand side, so looking at the coefficient. So the coefficient is the difference between the home odds and the away odds. 0.65 is their coefficient. So where Burnley have had a coefficient of between 0.51 and 0.75, again the quartiles, 43 times with a profit of 8.15 and an ROI of nearly 19%, giving true odds of 1.95 and again value to actual 0.24. So looking at that on face value, I would be more than happy to back Burnley for the home win. Whether you wanted to do correct score, whether you want to do a home win, whether you wanted to put a home win, drip a home win in, we can use this to give us an indication of how often they score the first goal, or how soon they score the first goal. You can see with the heat map data alone, those 20 games, there's been 13 of the times there's been a first half goal. You can toggle the minute in here. So if you wanted to look at the 15, six games have had a goal, at least a goal before the 15th minute. And again, it gives you the true odds here. You can look at the same for all of the games in the database and not just the 20 that we've picked through here. Average minute, 29 of first goal, 29 minutes using this data. In total database, 33 minutes. And then you can see the breakdown of who scores the first goal in the game in total. So just over half of these 20 have been scored by Burnley or as the home team. And again, just over half, but slightly lower for all the games in the database. So that explains the dashboard and the heat map itself. One more strategy staking system that we have built in here is using the Betfair odds. Okay, and I'm just going to look at it for this one game. I'm not going to go through this for every game because it would just purely take too long. All we have to do here is plumb in the current odds, and again I would do this closer to kickoff on the Betfair exchange, 2.28. Then we look at the over 2.5 market, which is 2.4. We look at the over 4.5 market, which is currently 11.5, and the under 0.5 market, which is currently at 10.5. And what this shows here is the profitability, and again it is profitable to 29% if we're using a method I'm going to explain in a minute, or 16% with straight backs. So if we straight back at these prices, here's the stake that we need to apply, which gives you a total stake of £12.97. So this is how you'd split your stakes out. And then where games have met this criteria in the past for Burnley, it shows you the returns. If the odds were the same as today, the returns you would have got for those games. And you can see here that the top three are the ones you want to avoid. So the 1-0, the 0-1 and the 0-2. Where we get a 1-0, a 0-0, a 2-2, a 1-2, a 0-3 and a 1-3 and a 2-0, you'd be about break even. But any other score lines, so you're looking for a home win typically, or a high scoring game to give you profit. The jackpot is the 3-2 and the other home win, assuming that it's not a 4-0. Because obviously the 4-0 returns the home win, but it doesn't return on the over 4.5 market. Now, the other way to play this is that you stake a higher stake on the under 0.5 just before kickoff, and then you place an offset lay one tick below, so at 10. So in effect, that gives you a free bet on that. The risk of doing that is that there is an early goal and you don't get your lay bet matched in time. Usually you would get that match before the off, but again, it depends. Odds movements, they can go one way, can go the other. So timing is key there, but you could put your back bet in with an offset lay, one tick below, and usually that will be matched within the first 90 seconds of a game, if not pre-kickoff, but there is an element of risk, an early goal there, and that means you've backed the under 0.5, your lay hasn't been matched, and you've backed at a higher stake, so you're already chasing your tail there. So the safer option is just to do straight backing, and again, as you can see from the 19 games that we've had pull through here, £449 profit, stake, £73 profit, and 16.41% ROI with an average return of £3.89 per game. That strategy doesn't always work for every game. It does have to be one where the home favourite is the home team is a favourite in terms of the data, not necessarily the odds. But you can see in that instance that however we play it, it looks like the home win is a good bet for that game. Just to bring this back in, the only flip side I would say on this one, as we saw earlier, is the score prediction in our software is saying a 0-0. Burnley haven't been scoring a lot of goals. You can see here the results pretty binary, opposed to Coventry, who have been, or their games have been carrying a lot of goals. So you've got two varying contrasts there in terms of styles. You can see the goal times here just blank. There's not a lot there, whereas quite a lot of cluster in the Coventry one. Okay, so that's Burnley, Coventry done. Let's revert back to the next game in the list, and that is Hull, Sheffield Wednesday. So I'm going to scroll to Hull, we'll just click them here. Wait for that to load. 2.35, 3.26, 3.03, and the 2.5 odds on this one, 2.02. So again, it's on the cusp, but I would be selecting all of these. I just need to highlight. I can hold the control key down. There wasn't an odds 2.2 matching on the Burnley game, but there is for the Hull game. Okay, so Hull, Sheffield Wednesday, there we go. We have the game state. You can see here straight away there's a couple more games at the top end here. So we've got 2 in the 1-all. There's 2 if you count that one on the 0-1. We also have 2-1 as a popular outcome. There's 1 other home win, and there's another couple of away wins and draws dotted around. So a bit more of a spread on this one in terms of the correct score. You can't play every game, you shouldn't do either. So that's the one thing to consider, not just with this system or this data offering, but any strategy that you're looking to deploy, you shouldn't be trying to roll that out across every single game. You should be picking and choosing the games, the ones that give you that value. In fact, I'm just going to click for the, because Hull have had a season in League One as well within there, and that wasn't clicked. So I'm just going to add that in just to see if it changes. It does change it slightly. So there, that pulls in. We've got 1-1, 0-0, and then 2-1, 2-0. Look popular, but it has changed things slightly on there. So it is important to include all the Hull games. Doesn't really matter what league we're looking at because we have the game state from Hull based on their over 2.5 and their the makeup here. Whatever your team is, you probably have a perception of them like, oh, we always do well when we're underdogs, or we always get turned over when we're heavily odds on favourites. What this dashboard is doing is backing that up or disproving that theory. Really, you're looking at your team, you're looking at what the game state is in terms of the makeup, of the odds, and then you can see where those popular scorelines have been. So if we scroll down a little bit more, look at the heat map profit loss. There isn't really anything that jumps out there. You can see that home win, slight negative, overall profit, but you're looking for blues in both of these really, and a lot higher than that really to have any confidence. We're all reds down here with Hull, and there's a red in this system as well as a negative. So probably a game that I'd look to skip is the Hull game. Correct score market, if that's your thing, then you could obviously use this as a guide. Just to bring up the Score prediction for the whole game, 1-1. So probably couldn't look much further beyond that. It's probably the safe bet. Okay, next game. Let's move quickly along, and we have Norwich versus Plymouth. Norwich at home. So Norwich 1.45 average bookmaker odds at the minute, so they're quite heavily fancied. Plymouth also on the road. They're a bit of a yin and a yang side. They're pretty strong at home, not so good away. And that again is why one of the reasons when we compile our odds, projected odds and score predictions in the database, we differentiate the home and away, because their teams do perform wildly different home and away. There was a bit of a leveller through COVID, but I think that's returned to the norm. Over 2.5 is currently at 1.55, so I'm going to grab everything in that 1.51 to 1.75 bracket. And see what it spits out. So again, quite heavily green. There's actually not a blue in sight on this the heat map. There's a couple of draws though. There's a high scoring draw, there's a 2-2. There's also 2 1-1s, and there's 2 0-0s if you look out to the 10%. So there's scope perhaps for a high value draw. And if you look down here, you can see that actually within the heat map, the profitability is on the draw. Although overall there is not, and there is just red across the board here in terms of the other markets, bookmaker markets. Scrolling down, and Norwich, where they've been within this quartile, actually not profitable at all, and again not profitable when they're in this coefficient between 0.22, between 0 and 0.25. So doesn't really give you any assurances that the home win is profitable, backing it as an outright. Not to say Norwich won't win, of course, but at those odds, there isn't perceived value. Where there might be perceived value is if you're looking at these score predictions. So you could back in on that. I imagine the 1-0 will be quite high compared to your standard 7. Let me just have a quick look at that. Just got Betfair open on the other screen. Norwich Plymouth correct score. So the 1-0 is actually 10.4. It's 11. So as a lot higher than you would normally get on a 1-0. So a 1-0 or 2-0 is not going to cost you a lot as a cover bet. The 2-0 is 21 or 20, sorry. But the value certainly seems to be on the correct score if you're looking at the 3-0s, the other home. That's the most popular other home win. So I think you're looking at either a Norwich, a heavy home win, or perhaps an unlikely draw as the scenarios there. Score prediction on that one, 3-1. That's our FBE score prediction. Can't really argue with that, can you? Okay, next game. Let's have a quick look. Who we have? Sheffield United versus Oxford. So again, let's scroll down, find Sheffield United. Okay, average odds Sheffield United 1.4, so even lower, 4.5 for the draw and 8.15 for the away win. Looking at the over-under, 2.5 is currently at 1.9, so that is in the quartile 1.76 to 2, fairly in the middle, and I do quite like it when it's in the middle, sat comfortably in there, certainly if you're betting a couple of hours before. So we can see here, what's it showing us here? So home win. There's 1 away win there, a couple of draws. There's only actually 13 games that are showing on here, and the reason is there are only 3 where Sheffield United, have been lower than 1.4 within this. It's quite unusual that they're heavy odds on favourite, but the average over 2.5 goal market is quite high. Quite an unusual scenario, I'd say there. So you've got your 10 games here, but there are only actually 3 times where they've been lower than today's price. And on those occasions, you can see the 2 home wins. There's a 1-0 and a 2-0. There was a 1-2 in there. But the 10 closest, where they've been slightly above today's pricing, you can see if there's not yielded an away win there. So there's only been one shock away win in that sequence. Scrolling down, so small value on the home win, certainly value overall on the home win, and value on both teams to score no, which would back up the over 2.5 being quite reasonably high for a favourite. So I think things do point there. The 2-0 looks the popular outcome. 2-0 and 1-0 Sheffield United. It's backed up there. The score prediction for this one is 2-0. Our FBD score prediction, bring that over. Sheffield United 2-0. Looking a bit further down, doesn't seem to be any value backing them outright based on the odds quartile. So where they've been in that bracket, it's about scratch. So no overall value there. And again, with the coefficient, it's just below 0, small loss. You can see here actually the average time of first goal within this 38 minutes. But Sheffield United have scored first 11 of those 13 games. Okay, let's move on. Have a look at the next game. As you can see how quickly you can get through these really. Stoke Preston. I'm obviously padding this out with some explanations as well. 2.04, 3.38, 3.61, and the 2.5 market on this one when it loads. Come on. Okay, so 2.04, so just over the threshold there. Let's wait for those games to load. I'm just going to add in the those two as well. Fill up the quartile. And let's have a look, see what we're looking at in terms of Stoke. So in this, they're all quite tightly grouped. 2-0 looks the most popular there, although there has been a 0-1, quite a few 0-0s as well. So yeah, quite a spread really, looking at that from Stoke. It's probably not a game I'd get involved in at all. In fact, the value seems to be on the away win here. So on Preston, there's profit on the heat map, big profit overall. But like I said, that's not taking into account these odds. That's purely games where the over 2.5 has been within that quartile. That's what this is looking at, and the 20 are the nearest games to where Stoke have been 2.04 at home. So yeah, so that's showing away win, you know, and if there's to be an away win, it's 0-1, 0-2. The most popular, there's 1-1-2 in there. There's nothing else, but you've also got four occurrences within that 20 that Stoke have won 2-0. But probably it's not anything I'd get involved in there. Looking at that, it's just a sea of red really. They've scored more than 1.5 goals on average at home in the last 5. But yeah, it's not a lot to. It's quite a heavy negative ROI, so I probably wouldn't touch that Stoke game at all. But there you go. That's what it looks like. Watford Bristol City is the next. Let's move to that one and have a look what we have here. So Watford Bristol City 2.22, 3.34, 3.2 for the away win. And if we just look at the over-unders, 1.96. So again, some of these games have potential for tipping over into the next quartile. So I would be looking at these closer to kickoff if I'm going to do anything on them. Watford, okay, there we go. So we've got the 20 games loaded up, and again a bit of a spread. Quite a lot of, we've got 3 1-all draws in there, 2 all draws, so one either side. We've got a few 2-0s. There's another away win there, so a freak result that happened. I'm sure if you're a Watford fan, you'll probably know what that one was. Don't know it off the top of my head. I could go into the data back end here and interrogate it, but I'm not really that bothered. 1-0 home win, There's 2 in there as well. So again, a fair spread, but what it's telling us here in the heat map summary, or the data summary, there's small value on the home win in both the heat map and the overall profit loss from the 84 games in this, where Watford have been at home in this over 2.5 bracket. The draw, weirdly, there's definite value here on the games closest to the makeup today, but overall it's a loser. And there's nothing really, that's all red there. But on the coefficient, where Watford, the difference between Watford and the away, Watford's odds and the away team odds, that is green, and there's a quite hefty ROI. So system or method 2, the coefficient betting does show a potential Watford value there. And again, if you were looking at that and thinking, yeah, Watford value there, method 2 value, correct score, where do I want to look? Well, 1-0, 2-0, 3-1, 3-2. Those have been the score lines they've won games with in the past when they've been in this makeup. Obviously does not mean it will happen today, but that's a good indicator. Final game, which is the later kickoff, Sunderland versus West Brom, 8 o'clock kickoff, live on Sky Sports, I believe. Let's plumb this in. There's quite a few tight games here, quite a few matches where the home team are odds against. There's only the 2 clear favourites, the Norwich and the Sheffield United. So that's the odds of this one. And what are the over-under? 2.17. Goals not fancied in this game. What are we seeing for Sunderland versus West Brom? Again, fair good spread. There's quite a few blues in there, probably more than we've seen for any of the other games. A couple of 2-2s, 1-1s, a couple of draws in there as well. So in fact, it's probably one of the rare ones where the home wins have been outnumbered. You can see here that of the 20 games, 6 home wins, 7 draws, 7 away wins. So that might suggest that there's value in either draw no bet away or double chance draw away. And again, backed up by the data here. So backing either the draw, certainly the draw in all of those 80 games, but also on the heat map, backing the away win on the heat map actually reduces for overall games. And the over 2.5s is deemed value. Both teams to score yes is deemed value. So, you know, you could be looking at the 1-all, the 2-all, 1-3, other away. There's one of those in there as well. I'd be surprised if there's green down here based on what we've seen above, and there isn't. So there you go. That's a wrap up of today's championship matches. If I get time, I'll do one for tomorrow. Again, like I said, this is a data guide. It's showing you certain areas. I'm trying to cover multiple different, I'm looking at correct scores, I'm looking at heat map data, total data based on over 2.5, looking at method 1, method 2, and of course don't forget method 3 as well. Like I said, this dashboard, hoping to get it released commercially, probably early in the new year to our advanced members. I encourage anybody interested in this who's got a bit of Excel skill, a bit of time, perhaps to have a little look and see what they can build, because it is useful, it is powerful. And I hope you found this video of interest.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more useful content.